Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this webinar, Delivering Asset Management Transformation and Intelligent Infrastructure. My name is Diego Galar. I'm Professor of Condition Monitoring in the Luleå University of Technology, and it's my pleasure to be the moderator of this panel. Actually, the transformation in the railway in Europe is crucial since digital transformation is the main driver of this transition. And of course, the way that we are doing this, the asset management that has been applied in many sectors is of course also applied with very much success in the railway sector. The way that we operate and maintain our assets, the way that we are introducing digitization in the process of improving our asset performance, and how we are moving through higher capacity and better punctuality in our assets in a very, very aging infrastructure that we have in Europe, and of course, a very limited capability to build infrastructure with a very big needs to be maintained. It's my pleasure to have 4 excellent speakers with me today to discuss how the digital transformation and intelligent infrastructure are coming into the picture. And we have 2 excellent speakers from infra managers and 2 brilliant speakers from organizations, research organizations, and railway associations. Then it's my pleasure to give the floor to the first of the speakers, Mr. José Conrado, who is the head of R&D projects in ADIF, the infra manager in Spain, who is going to give us the perspective of one of the most successful infra managers in terms of high-speed operation and in terms of traffic in the continent. Mr. José Conrado, floor is yours. Thank you for coming here.
Thank you very much, Diego, and thank you everyone for to attend this webinar. Okay, can you see my? Okay. Can we start, Diego?
Yes, please proceed, José.
Sorry. Okay, thank you very much. My presentation speak about the vision of a Spanish infrastructure managers in that interesting topic that we discuss in this webinar. Let me briefly review the main operational data of my company. ADIF manage a network of some 16,000 kilometers, of which 20% corresponds to the highest speed lines. And as you surely know, a peculiarity of our network is the difference in the gauge between the highest speed network and the conventional network, which is both metric and mainly Iberian gauge, as you can see here. We have an annual traffic of about 2 million trains or 6,000 trains by day, 468 million travelers each years, 47 high-speed stations, about 1,900 conventional network stations, and I think that is interesting, this data, because we management about 60,000 kilometers of optical fiber. That is an element that is very interesting for the disputes of today. Okay, and this time ADIF has just presented a new strategic plan until 2030. This plan is made up of 3 main pillars, in which digital transformation and innovation are 2 essential strategic tools common to all of them. Okay, the goal is to improve some of the main production activities of the company. Of this, infrastructure maintenance is the most important, absorbing, by the set approximately 50% of the total investment of railway manager, or in the case of our company. Okay, another important topic is You can see here the assets management and the safety respect to the control of new threats, and the reduce the energy traction. By the first question that I introduce here is, can digital transformation lead to a more productive workforce? By focusing on maintenance, we can ensure that the answer is yes. Also, you can see in my presentation that the aging of the infrastructure is one of the most important cases of this massive expense in the maintenance. But another of the most important cases related to the lack of employment of the maintenance staff with adequate system for working, collecting, and managing the information necessary to allow planning adequate. It should be noted that it currently already has a high degree of digitization, but in terms of rolling stock and infrastructures, in any case, lacking on some areas. Signaling facility, for example, electrical substation, due to their electronic nature, are currently maintained with powerful systems that process permanently acquired information. Due to its linear distribution of many hundreds of kilometers, other areas such as the catenary and the track do currently have deficiencies. This being our main objective and the present times in our strategic plan. Okay. Respect to the new model of the maintenance and to the moving from the corrective maintenance to the new maintenance, you can see here a general figure respect to the situation. The typically applied maintenance is in fact periodic preventive maintenance based of rails established a long time ago. This maintenance is intended to anticipate the breakdown by repairing or replacing the elements of an installation on the infrastructure, respecting the useful life of these elements, which will be defined by the manufacturer's criteria. For this purpose, continuous monitoring of the elements of the installation will be carried out basis of the documentation provided by the manufacturer. In this way, the piece will be replaced without waiting to reach the end of life or their failure, performing this type of maintenance in hours that do not alter the operation of the line. Okay, in this case, we actually our company, the maintenance that we applied in infrastructure is this. Okay. Best integral performance of the railway infrastructure can be achieved with the new type of the maintenance strategies aiming at predictive or condition-based maintenance. Okay, this maintenance is based on the use of tools in order to acquire information of the deterioration of the elements and create a knowledge base to infer risk of failure and develop strategies to decide when to perform the intervention or delay in your case. Okay, this is a monitored process in which the goal is to have the maximum amount of data to help us determine the time at which a breakdown will occur and determine the right time to act. In any case, our current objective is to migrate to a predictive maintenance, to this type of maintenance based on the condition that will imply the massive use of the information is capturing and processing being fundamental. Okay. Typically, there is a less amount of information on the infrastructure level, but it is not fully extracted. Essential for efficient maintenance or rail infrastructure is the availability of up-to-date, accurate, and reliable asset information that is only available by measuring key parameters and monitoring condition and behavior of the critical assets. I find it interesting to note that within the framework of the International Union of the Railways Research Working Group a few years ago, it was already defined that the availability and treatment of the information was a general problem in a large part of the railway of the infrastructure managers. At that time, it was defined that it would be a new objective in the field of new research, development, and innovation plans. Okay. In this exchange, the approach that we have given to this new maintenance process based on better use of data can be analyzed in a general way. It's a similar approach to other, for example, my colleagues from Sea2Rail will explain you the procedure in Sea2Rail that is very similar, okay? Is similar in other fields such as an industrial or an aeronautical sector, okay? Perhaps in our case, the most complicated thing is the acquisition of the data, taking into account that we manage linear infrastructures with many hundreds of kilometers. For the rest, the subsequent objective is to analyze, make decisions, carry out the necessary repairs and action and maintenance traceability that allow improving subsequent process, okay? But for us, the most important action is the acquisition of the information. In this example, I wanted to somehow represent how the acquisition of information should be done from two main data sources. On the one hand, the trains, which continue to be the main tool for this acquisition. Normally, in our case, inspection trains. But as you know, for several years now, some infrastructure managers and operators have also used commercial trains to acquire information, being a totally optimal process from a productive point of view. In our case, we currently only use inspection trains and machinery, but we hope to be able to take that new state later. And the second source is the sensor level. This is where new possibilities open up and at the operational level. Using low-cost sensor with zero or very low maintenance will allow the reporting of additional information on a specific point of the infrastructures. Currently, it is already done, but in a very specific way. The goal will be to extrapolate this approach to a massive number of points. A good example of this can be the use of optical fiber as a sensor. It's a distributed sensor characteristic, and the existence, in some case, we have free fibers in our installation, makes this a very attractive approach for infrastructure managers. Respect the use of emerging technologies, we are identifying the following technologies as necessary in this new production process. I remark in red those technologies used to be used in the new maintenance and asset management model. Okay. How best to deliver data-driven rail infrastructures and learning from experience? In principle, our approach is reduce to gradually the building height added value demonstrators that can be tested on the infrastructures and the real operating condition. It's a level of technology, a level equal to 7, okay? Tier 7, and that point we are now. The development of this demonstrator is well received within the organization, and they generate, from their point of view, added value. They are not only valid for analyzing the associated technical effects, but also represents a way of working with operational staff who must change their mentality. This is an aspect very, very important in the new process in the future for the implementation of this type of change, okay? It's very, very important, the mentality and the opinion of the operational staff. It is necessary to have them on our side in this new technological change. Later, and if everything works well, we must be in a position to make a major change, deploying all that the new knowledge in production. This is a long period of time, and one that we think will not come before, in our case, 10 years, okay? Finally, in this slide, you can see, by way of example, the demonstrator, some demonstrator in development that we are currently promoting in the field of the maintenance of terrain and structures. And for example, we are implemented a specific demonstrator for the predictive maintenance of the bridge, of the crossings, the use of the drones and satellites for, you know, that is a mature technical procedures, but it's very interesting to introduce these new technologies in the production cycle, okay? This is all. I thank you very much for my for attending this webinar. Thank you very much, Diego.
Thank you, Jose, for your presentation. Excellent. It's clear that now the railway is not domestic anymore. It's some European level concern. And now we move from South Europe to North Europe with Rail Baltica, another infra manager that is going to explain us with a different case studies how the European railways are addressing their aspects of data management and digital transformation. Ulmar, floor is yours.
Thank you. I will speak about how BIM and GIS together built the asset information management system. As my colleague Kaspar Spriškens presented yesterday, what is our project about? So I will not focus on that. Just go back to the website and check the first session. I just show here shortly this summary pictures how long the path is through whole 3 Baltic states. Principally, I am focused in this company on building up a proper asset management system. And in my opinion, cost-effectively managed assets lead to cost-effective and efficient operation of the entire railway. As it's very popular to draw some pictures by hand, so that is what I did. And principally what we do is BIM is also better information management. So our railway relies on 3 whales. Those are the common data environment, asset information management, and GIS. Through the public tender, Bentley project-wise was chosen as our common data environment. And after running some pilot projects, we decided that actually the best solution for asset management is to do that in Esri ArcGIS enterprise environment. This is not the picture of the railway, but from the road. And if you scan that little QR code, you can watch the video in funny foreign language called Estonian, how the poor maintenance of the road has led to the picture you see there. Namely, the water levels in culverts were not monitored, despite the fact that nowadays we have lots of sensors, drones, satellites, as Jose mentioned in his presentation also. Why we decided to go just for asset register and not buy a very good facilities management system? The main reason is that we do not have an infrastructure manager appointed yet. It is a political decision depending on 3 countries plus European Union. And as this decision has not been made yet, there is no sense to spend $500,000 for a software that maybe never is going to be used. On the other hand, properly codified and classified assets are the cornerstone of any facilities management system. So we decided that we will systematize the data that we are getting during the design phase. What were our requirements for the asset register? Actually, there were not too many requirements. First of all, our designers provide us all designs also as IFC models and data drops. So it is important that this new system enables us to get the data into the database. It is also important to exchange the information via different APIs with other systems. As railway is linear asset, so linear asset management capability is essential. Also the ArcGIS integration. The nice to have features were that it could be used in the future as a FM software, and if there will be built-in interfaces to Bentley ProjectWise and Primavera P6, that would be nice. Now to the classification and codification. Principally, we have lots of assets with their unique IDs. They are located somewhere. They are on some properties. We have performed multiple environmental studies within some projects. And of course, we have signed contracts to do that. With what we started is coding of the basic objects, and most importantly, enforce those codes. The main principle was that we should have unique codes and simple codes, and that should be applicable for the entire life cycle of the asset. So we should have the code and a human readable name, and also in local language. Because I actually discovered that one bridge, you can have 7 different names for it. And if each of them calls that bridge with their own name, and especially if foreigners will look at the nice letters that we have, A, O, and so on, then really we do not recognize that name later. So, for example, design section and design priority sections, we will have normal human readable codes, LV for Latvia, design section 2, priority section 2, and the name is then Nagelmuja Salaspils. We have coded the stations, stops, and railway sections within the design priority sections. Now to the structures or point type objects, we could call them bridges, roads, culverts, noise barriers. The rule is that we have 2 letters and 4 numbers. So BR 6371, and the name is Regional Road 1516 Overpass. And those codes will be used in all Rail Baltica systems. So really we can compare and connect apples to apples. My colleague Vaidas has done great work into importing into GIS all the data that we are getting from our designers. Now to the practical part, what we have done. As I mentioned earlier, we get the IFC models with the required attributes. All our attributes begin with RBR something, and then the value is here. We have imported those models into ArcGIS environment using the Esri interoperability tool. We merged then the elements into one into bigger objects. So as you see here, we have the bridge, which has its English name and also the name in local language. As our infrastructure is critical infrastructure according to the Latvian law, so all the names are hidden from your view. The same crossing showing us only the road part. And we have also imported all the elements into a separate assets table, which I will show later. In that particular case, we see the object classification code and all the elements in that bridge that are with this classification code. And we import also all the data or attributes that are in the model. Using the ArcGIS interoperability extension enables us to convert the data in IFC model into the data exactly as we want to have them. So in end effect, that data lands in a database where we have then the orange-like color. Those boxes are the feature classes, meaning the geometry, and the white ones are the tables. We have different areas there. We have the information about the sites. Sites are the objects like the bridges, culverts, and so on. And each bridge has multiple assets. Back to the site geometry, we have different geometries for the same object, whether that bridge, the geometry of the bridge in the value engineering phase, in the master design phase, in the detailed design phase, and so on. We can have all those analyses in our GIS environment. There are data related to the affected parties, meaning persons and organizations. Regarding documents, the preferred way would be to save or keep the documents actually in the project-wise, because our consultants, designers provide us also the maintenance manuals and other documents related to particular assets and sites. The maintenance information could be also managed in ArcGIS Enterprise because it has a really user-friendly, simple interface for asset for work requests. Through object classification codes and types, we can get linkage to different classification systems and standards. Right now we are on UNICLASS 2015, but in the future there may be other classifications that will be used in our region. So we are ready for them also. The third part of my presentation is the information that should be updated in the construction phase. I am for the evolution and not for the revolution. And therefore, we prepare the data in master design and detailed design phase. That is imported into asset register. During the construction phase, the contractor fills in missing attribute information. If new elements are added to the geometry, then the native models must be updated and new IFCs exported. And then we import again as a new geometry into our GIS database. The most important 5 questions put into 2 sentences. Who need what information, where, and when, and of course, why they need it. And the second question is what information we have to create and where. Those were the questions that we were working on when creating that database structure. We also have to consider what information is needed during the life cycle of the project. And we also have to consider what is needed by the authorities. Because in real life, during construction and operations, we may not need that information that is needed by authorities. So it is really important to consider that also. Moving to the next steps. The first priority is to move that nice solution into production by the end of this year. And shortly after that, or actually that process is on the way also, we want to have a real integration with Bentley project-wise. Not just URL, but really sending a query, for example, to get the maintenance manuals related with particular switch type. And regarding integration with Primavera P6, we need to get, and also we can provide information about the progress of different activities. And now the question to you, think about it. Is your project really a BIM project, or is it just a project with BIM deliverables? And my final slide, according to our logic, BIM model is not just the geometry, but it contains also the information, the documents, the quantity takeoffs, and all those 4D, 5D, 6D, or that information. And if you scan that QR code, you get all my data and also the link to our BIM documentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Urmas. It has been fantastic to see how you manage the asset registers in the north of Europe. And now we have the associations. So it's the railway associations. They have played a key role in the European harmonization of digital transformation. For that, we have Tommaso Spanevelo from UNIFE, that is one of the most relevant organizations that has contributed with a very, very good dissemination and harmonization of standards all over the Europe. Tommaso, floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here. Indeed, I'm here on behalf of UNIFE. UNIFE is the Association of the European resupply industry. We are a network of over 100 members all across Europe, large companies and also SMEs. Our companies are companies that really span the entire system of rail, from rolling stock to infrastructures to signaling to IT components, etc. And of course, we consider ourselves one of the most important industry for the European economy. This is like an overview of our members, but you can obviously find it on our website. I will move straight to our vision on digitalization of rail, which is based on 2 main documents, these 2 vision papers, which were prepared last year, the first one, and this summertime, the second one, really to bring at the center of the digital debate the view of the European rail supply industry. We have identified a few digital trends, which we're considering deemed the most important one for the European rail manufacturers. We also have investigated the challenges related to them and also formulated some recommendations and conclusions. Everything which I'm going to say now and now on is based on these two documents, prepared specifically by our committee. This digitalization a platform open to all our members. I'm glad to say that one of our fellow speakers, Mr. Hank Samson, that will speak after me, was one of the driving forces behind this vision. So the first building block of our vision is about the data. So data at the center of our digital vision. Data is really the backbone, the engine which can enable all the other trends and technologies. The same goes, this goes for artificial intelligence, for instance. It goes for digital automatic coupling, not just the automation of it, but the further step, the digitalization of it. So all the potential which is showing for freight, gigabit connectivity, specifically the 5G, through the access to the 5G broadband span, a much larger volume of data would be able to be transported much quicker, much faster across a greater number of connected devices, communicating between each other at real time. And of course, also digital twins, a technology which spans the entire assets life cycles of a rail, and which enables us to anticipate key developments of the rail system and the subsystems, deriving insights about the performance of the physical assets. Second building block of our vision. So as much as rail takes advantage of digitalization, of course, the security environment becomes more vulnerable. The security environment needs to be redefined. This goes for rail, of course, but also for all other sectors and industry which are taking advantage of digitalization. And so the more rail takes advantages of the digitalization, the more this exposes it to cybersecurity risks. And the paradox is that cybersecurity risks and threats are as much as versatile and dynamic as a digital world. So they are continuously changing. We consider as a priority with the protection of the railways against this risk, against these threats, to maintaining a safe and reliable railways. We have a specific working group at UNIFE that deals with cyber security. So it's really one of the main priorities for us. And the third building block is about cooperation. Cooperation so digitalization is not something that belongs to one single component of the sectors. It's important that is moved forward collectively as a sector. It's important that there is a cooperation between the manufacturers, of course, operators, when it comes to mainline and also urban infra managers, without forgetting the passengers and the freight side. Also, moving on, is fundamental to have a cooperation with the EU institutions, but also the agencies. I think about the ENISA, so the cybersecurity agencies, and obviously the European Railway Agency, also the regulatory authorities. And finally, what is really at the center, what must always remain at the center, is really the customers. Through cooperation, there is a number of things that we can achieve. I mentioned before cybersecurity. The exchanges of knowledge and expertise would be really fundamental to put in place a cybersecurity strategy for the detection of cyber threats and also the responses to it. Also for artificial intelligence, to overcome the regulatory complexity, which is linked to artificial intelligence related applications in the railway system, shortening the time to market. And also about data, but I will say something about this a bit later. So data as enabler of intelligent railways. Everybody acknowledges the importance of collecting, managing, and effectively processing data to deeply transform the railway sector's business as usual. It's been mentioned many times that between railway vehicles, the infrastructures and the signaling equipments and other elements, the volume of data which are produced and are available can be quite staggering. Therefore, the real challenge here is really to cope with this huge amount of data and to manage it, to turn it into relevant information that can be used for targeted and effective decisions and actions. There is a number of really big benefits that the railways sector can take from this effective management of data. One thing is dynamic traffic management, responding to potential disruption and rescheduling of rail traffic, including the monitor and the anticipation of the passengers flow demand for an adaptive transformation system. We have the extension of life of the rail assets here. The technology of the digital twins can be quite handy because they can really help to check the future performance of the physical assets, enabling some test driving solutions before actually taking on the actual applications. And then, of course, we have also predictive maintenance or data-driven maintenance. Here, the collections of data from sensors can be combined with historical models to anticipate the potential, the possible failure of the assets. The data enable asset simulation, which is helpful for pinpointing, for spotting, for predicting the potential risk of a failure of a track, but also vehicles components. These data-driven solutions can be very essential when it comes to maximizing also the investments and the use of resources during the planning of a new railways or a rolling stock, but also the update. Digital twins, again, this technology can contribute to the prediction of changes can be happening during the project executions, avoiding cost increases and delays. As much as these data-driven solutions represent potential great benefits, we see that there is still little appetite for data sharing in the rail sector. This is perfectly understandable because it is often linked to commercial sensitivities, although our view as European rail supply industry, it is that it's very fundamental to break these barriers to data sharing. In order to fully harness these benefits of data-driven solutions in the sectors. We need, of course, a framework for data information sharing across the whole sector. We need more clarification and transparency regarding the categorization of rail data, and this would lead necessarily to a collective view about which data may be shared among the stakeholders. But of course, here the element of cooperation I mentioned before as building block of our digital vision comes really much on the table. It is very important that a collective view about which data can be shared is actually carried out. We put a lot of hope in the future ecosystem for data framework in mobility, which the European Commission will, the common European data space for mobility that the European Commission will carry out next year in the framework of its data strategy. And then a few words on the research innovation. Research innovation is considered by us really the main fuel when it comes to carry out the digitalization of rail. And in this sense, I'm not going to say too many words about that because a representative of Shift2Rail will speak after me, but Shift2Rail has represented really a breakthrough in the sector. because it has really managed to bring, without a single structure, all the research innovation efforts of the sector, really triggering all the innovation ecosystems across operators, suppliers, infra managers, and the academia. Here I would like to mention, which is very relevant for the topic of today, the Innovation Program 2, Advanced Controller Management and Control Systems. If for my final part, allow me a lobbying pitch. UNIFE remains a lobby organization, so we strongly support the continuation of a collaborative research model in the future research innovation program Horizon Europe, Shift to Rail 2, or Transforming European Rail System, it is nicknamed, to really make the rail system the system of systems, the system integrator, the backbone of the mobility paradigm. The future proposal for the for this institutional partnership is based on these transforming projects. These transforming projects, which are really like the backbone of the future instruments, we start, which are displayed on the slide. We start from one challenge of the rail sector, and also we'll try to devise a solution to solve these challenges, including all the different aspects which are needed to overcome that solutions, including the economics, the deployment evaluation, but also the socio-economics and the regulatory aspects. And I conclude with what is coming in the future, a lot of initiatives from the European Commission. We will have the European Single Market of Data proposal, a common European data space for mobilities with a review of the regulatory framework for interoperable data sharing e-rail transport. We put a lot of hope for this to be able to break this barrier of data sharing in the sector. Also European Single Market for Cybersecurity, and a master plan for excellent and trustworthy artificial intelligence. And I really conclude on a not on a high note. When it comes to the future budget of research innovation, the current proposal shows a huge cut in the budget, and we believe that if we want to really enable the green and digital transition of transport, which is linked, of course, to the continuation of shift to rail, of transforming European system in Horizon Europe, research innovation should not be undermined this way. Please visit our website to be able to download these two visions about which I just tried to present, and feel free also to connect with us on Twitter. That was my last slide. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Tommaso. As you pointed out, there's definitely behind the digital transformation and asset management of railways, there's a huge research effort. And as you pointed as well, Shift to Rail has been the biggest initiative in the history of Europe in terms of funding and in terms of research projects in order to glue the railway network. Then now our last speaker, last but not least, is Henk Samson, that is going to give us one screening how these projects all over the Europe funded by Shift to Rail, they have come to the picture in the way of some demonstrators, case studies, proof of concept, and hopefully in the continuation of the Shift to Rail, we will see some of these demonstrators a reality and will be totally scale up. Henk, welcome here, floor is yours.
Okay, I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Okay, can you see also the screen?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, thank you for giving me the floor. My name is Henk Samson. I work for Structon Rail, but today I'm representing Shift to Rail, the program you just referred to. And to be more specific, I represent Innovation Program 3. I happen to be one of the technology demonstrator leaders, as they call them, the TD leaders, and that's why Shift Rail has asked me to do this presentation here today. I realized that it is actually a limited introduction for those who are not familiar with Shift to Rail. So I focus on the Innovation Program 3, which is all about cost-efficient and reliable high-capacity infrastructure. On this slide, you see some logos of the members. There are certain organizations behind it. Within the membership of Shift2Rail, there are also some consortia. So consortia like Switraken, but also Smart de Mer, Euroc, and Virtual Vehicle. So behind these names, there are other organizations, and one of them is indeed Structon Rail. You see here on the right-hand side all the individual technical demonstrators. So there are two technical demonstrators which are about enhanced track system, and one is focusing on switches and crossing and the other one on optimized track. Then you have two demonstrators focusing on the next generation track systems, and this is going one step further than just an enhanced track system, and again focusing on switches and crossings and track. One technical demonstrating took the subject of bridges and tunnels, not developing new bridges and tunnels, but to find solutions to extend the lifespan of the existing bridges and tunnels. The idea is that there are so many bridges and tunnels in the rail system and the capacity is being increased, so they need specific technologies to improve them and to extend their lifespan. I'm going to talk about the three technical demonstrators which are here in the circle, and it is all about intelligent asset management. So I'll leave that for the time being. But to give the full picture of the Innovation Program 3, I have to mention also the technical demonstrators around energy, and there's one technical demonstrator concerning future stations. I told you that I'm going to talk about three technical demonstrators, so forget actually about individual technical demonstrators because all these technologies need to work together, but they were in the pillar, as we call them, intelligent asset management, and that's why I'm today here with you talking about this. As a matter of fact, many of the ideas which we have seen in the previous especially the two presentations from Rail Baltica and ADIF, you will see similar movements here. So what we see here is that these three TDs all focus on data capturing. So that is at the bottom of this image. It's the data acquisition, new technologies for data acquisition, but also finding data that is already there. The second step is that you need to do something with this data. So when we defined the program for Shift2Rail 1, we came to the conclusion that data analytics is very important to do this in order to derive some understanding, some information out of all this data. Open standards are very important for this as well, because you will find many individual technical solutions to acquire data, and they need to talk to each other. So that's why also the subject of open standards has been integrated here. By the way, this is being recognized within this innovation program by the members of Shift2Rail, but this became a rather big subject as such, and also in the other innovation programs of Shift2Rail, a conceptual data model became more important. So there's now a separate project called Links for Rail being defined, which was not original planned, but recognizing that this is really of big importance. So we set up these projects as well, which is, by the way, a good example of how Shift2Rail works and a good example of good collaboration. Anyway, when you have all the data, you do the data analytics, then you come to another issue, and that is that you need to make decisions. You need to make maintenance strategies, and you need to be ready for the execution. Because if you know that assets are going to fail, you need also to organize your work outside, and that needs some attention as well. In a simplified flow here, what I just told, so you have the systems and the assets that you want to maintain and to work with, so you need to understand the data or to derive data from them. You need to analyze that, and then you need to finally to do the decision making. By the way, you can see a similar circle being in a previous presentation from Jose from ADIF, who had this wonderful circle with saying obtain, identify, make decision, repair, and evaluate. So the first TD is all about novel technologies to find data. So you can in the end only pick a few examples. but we try to structure it in this way that you can have monitoring systems that infra is monitoring infra, so you have sensors on the infrastructure. You can have also mounted sensors on the infrastructure monitoring the rolling stock. You can have rolling stock monitoring the infra, so you mount some sensors on the rolling stock, and then you're monitoring the infra, the status of the infrastructure. And finally, you have, of course, also sensors on board of the rolling stock monitoring the behavior of the rolling stock. By the way, that last category is not dealt with in this innovation program, but within Shift to Rail, there's a cross-cutting activity where this has been included. So when you have the data, we identified that you need to look at a few aspects. One is you want to understand the data, so you need to understand what is going wrong with the data, so you come to an anomaly detection. Another aspect that we looked in is the process mining. How well are your processes? How do those processes work? Are they really efficient? We came, by the way, to the conclusion that the way how the processes are currently defined, the data analytics behind that doesn't give the desired results so far. But we need to keep this in mind for the future. And that means that also our processes need to be better defined and better supported by IT systems so that you can check the efficiency of your processes. When you have the anomaly detection and you want to implement it in real practice, you need to come to predictive models, because people in the operation are not going to do the hardcore data analytics. So you need to have some automation about it to give the right alerts, so in predefined alerts that people know what to do outside. So finally, you need to come to the decision support, which means that what I saw, by the way, in the presentation from Rail Baltica is that you're making a big plan. So you have all the information, but you're making also a choice how you're going to structure the information, how you're going to obtain the status of your asset in future. And that is on a strategic level. Then you have your strategic asset management plan. So when you have those ideas, you need to come slowly to the execution, and you do that in 3 steps. You need to define plans for certain routes because you might have different technologies there. You finally need to have a couple of months or a year ahead a specific delivery plan. But then in the last step, when you're going to execute, you shouldn't forget that you need to be very agile, because you keep on getting new information when you really have the asset status. So if you a year ago said that you're going to maintain certain assets because they need it, you need to look when you are in the neighborhood of the other assets to check what their status is. It would be a shame that you, during a possession, look at assets which are perfectly all right, but you're standing right next to assets which are almost on the verge of falling over. So that is the more agile planning, which is an aspect we need to do as well. These are the ideas that we have defined when we started Shift Rail 1, the current Shift Rail program. The current Shift Rail program started actually with the Lighthouse project, and that's what you can see in this image. This first project was called Into Rail, and we started working slowly on the plans that were predefined. And then later, for these 3 pillars I'm talking about, we defined 2 projects, Into Smart and Into Smart 2. Into Smart was the first step, so we took the results from Interrail and we continued working on there. And then we went to Into Smart 2, which is a project which started at the end of last year and is now full on its way. And it must lead to very high TRL levels. So the results should be technical ready so that they are very close to the market. So that's what is visualized in this image here. Now, Into Smart 2, there are a whole collection of partners involved, and instead of working on individual technologies, which we did in Into Smart 2, we defined various use cases. This presentation time I have here is too slow, too short, so I can only mention very briefly 3 use cases. So I want to mention here one use case, smart maintenance on a rail freight corridor. This is a use case driven by one of the partners, Deutsche Bahn, by the way, supported by many other partners in the project. This is focused on a specific line, which is, you can see here, this visualized on the right-hand side. And this will pick on certain examples certain examples of the technologies being developed. Another use case is operational asset management in a Dutch environment. This is worked on, Structon Rail is one of the partners in this, but other partners like Fraunhofer, DLR, Siemens, they are involved as well. Somoza is one consultancy company which helps us on this specific subject. So I'm lifting out now one specific subject. The use case covers much more ideas, but what I would like to emphasize is when you go outside, when you know that assets are going to fail, you need to integrate it in your planning. And what we try to do here is to optimize our resources. So as an organization, you have your renewal projects, which are visualized in this upside down pyramid on the right-hand side of the picture. These are the renewal projects. So renewal projects have a different pace. But you have your day-to-day maintenance as well, which is on the left-hand side. These are our maintenance contracts. This is our day-to-day maintenance work. This is based on 5 years plans. So you have these plan, do, act, and optimize circles implemented. But what you want to do is you want to combine the resources to be more efficient. You want to combine resources in terms of the people that you use, but also the equipment that you use, but also the possessions that are available. So this is what we try to do in this project to optimize, to find the next optimization here. Another use case I would like to mention, because it is a quite different one, and this is driven by one of the partners, Network Rail, with the support of many other partners. But this is about robotics and lean execution. Because like I said, if you know what's going to happen, you need to execute this. And Network Rail was so kind to have this vision that in future there will be much more intelligent equipment around, let's call it robots that know where they have to go, identify the spot and start repairing it. So with less people in the track, but also that you are able to do quality checks, which you feed back into your system. So they are working on a platform which can move around in the real life environment, which requires a command and control heart. We as Structon are working on one specific example what could be done, and that is actually reprofiling the railhead with new novel technology using water where you can actually cut the steel with. So that should be an application which can be mounted eventually on an intelligent robot. So this is a completely different kind of use case. Okay, yeah, last but not least, because I'm representing Shift to Rail here, also a view to the future. And if I might refer to the presentation of Tommaso, Tommaso gave a brief overview about the desired subjects that Shift Rail 2 should focus on. But this image represents a little bit the ideas how Shift to Rail 2 could be structured. So what you see is on the left-hand side, you can see that there's an innovation pillar. This is what is Shift Rail 1 currently. This is where the real projects are, where the real technical developments take place. But it should be monitored by something else, and that is called the system pillar. So to keep an overview, do all these technologies that are being developed, are they fitting together, and does it fit in a system of systems? Another thing is that what has been identified is that there should be clear focus on 3 different types of developments. So one is there should be space for fundamental research, low technical readiness levels. So academia, research centers with new possible technologies should be able to foster these new opportunities. We need to come to real results, which means that you need to have also a focus on applied research. And yeah, last but not least, you want also to show that it all works. So large-scale operational demos, as is done currently in Shift2Rail, will be have a place as well. And what is also recognized is when you develop this all, you need to have also an outlook on the possibility to deploy these technologies. So where are the projects where these technologies can be implemented? So then you talk about real infrastructure or new lines that are being developed, and that is on the far right-hand side. This is in a nutshell what I can tell you quite about Shift2Rail right now. And I would like to end my presentation here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Henk, for your brilliant presentation. Yes, sir. Then now, first of all, let me thank all of the presenters, because I think you have covered most of the topics that are the main concerns of the digital railways nowadays. Let me first to point that in the question that has been sent to the audience regarding if they think that digitization is making the tracks safer for the workers, 100% of the people they have agreed that definitely the digital transformation is making our tracks safer for the workers. Please, can you point out something regarding this? Do you really think that the concept of operator 4.0, safety 4.0 in the track work, where we have our people doing really work and exposed to some risk, is really important? Maybe, Henk, that you are representing a structure also that you are doing huge transformation in the tracks?
Yes. It's interesting. This is a subject which we introduced actually in Shift2Rail 1, and thanks to Network Rail that they are focusing on this robot platform, and they have this clear vision. As a construction company, we have limited resources, but we recognize, and this is also one of the key subjects also for the near future, that much more work should be done around further mechanization and robotization. So we are thinking of the use of exoskeletons, but also, operators. So the vision of one of our senior managers is that in future, workers should walk alongside the track with a joystick, just operating the robot. So no bending through your legs anymore, sitting on your knees, because it is all unhealthy. So yeah, track safety, safety for the workers has a very high priority, and we believe that further digitalization can help with that, and also futuristic technology can help.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, one more question from the audience is that regarding the pandemic, COVID-19 has been maybe the unfortunate event during 2020. And has changed the way that we are facing everything, including the railways. It's a critical infrastructure, research, everything has been affected by the pandemic. It's for any of you. How do you think that will be the digital transformation affected by this COVID-19? Maybe the digitalization will be even prioritized more and more to have unattended assets and manned assets for critical infrastructure? Maybe Urmas, do you want to answer? Urmas, please unmute.
Yeah, that's typical because I have some construction site here next to me also.
Okay.
I think it's really important and it fosters the digital transformation in a good way, meaning we are forced actually to move into digital environment.
Yeah, it's certainly the digital transformation is going to be one of the main supports of to be resilient and robust in our infrastructure. Seems that this is going to be really important. But the audience is also concerned about cybersecurity. And this question for you, Tommaso, do you think that we need more collaboration between the companies to foster more much safer systems with a higher cybersecurity deployment, or are we already mature in this regard?
Absolutely, we need to foster cooperation. First of all, sectoral cooperation, but also beyond that. We need to think that we need to have in mind that transport as a sector is the most attacked sector after the defense, the financial, and the energy. So it's a sector, not rail only, but the whole transport is really much subject of attacks. So cybersecurity is really a multifaceted discipline, and the countermeasures need to be applied across multiple fronts. Therefore, sharing these experiences, sharing skills and expertise among different branches of the sector, but also beyond that, because rail sector can effectively learn from other sectors, like aviation, for instance. That would be very important. And I think at the level of the agencies, the ENISA is really trying to bring together the rail agency, the aviation agencies, to try to really cooperate on this topic of cybersecurity. It would be really, really, really important.
Yeah, definitely cooperation is crucial to develop the European railways. But you all have been talking about the different deployment of the projects and how to scale it up. It's one question for ADIF, for Mr. José Conrado, is how ADIF, that is a big company, is working with the suppliers, with other companies, in order to deploy the demonstrators, the case studies. How you articulate this kind of collaboration, ADIF and the rest of the companies, to prepare proof of concept and scale it up further later on?
Thank you, Diego, by the question. Yes, currently our intention. The first important thing is that we are a public company, okay, and our idea is to implement an open innovation with the companies and with the railway sector, okay. Currently, our intention is that all these demonstrators are the result of specific technological projects. In some cases, these projects refer to projects in collaboration with our technology suppliers and technology centers and academias. However, one of the main formulas that we are now using as a public company is to consult to the markets about the existing technology and subsequently prepare a public contract with the best technical and economical offers. Okay? At the end of the day, we are a public company, and the rules of transparency and equality must govern in our approach. Okay.
Thank you very much, Jose. One question for Urmas is from the audience. You have been crystal clear in how you have prepared your project of your BIM models and compressing all your documentation, etc. This is have you cooperated with many international entities, or is a pure Baltic project? Audience is curious about which partners have you been using for your project?
Thank you for the question. Actually, most information or the logic that I'm using comes from my previous history. I've been selling, supporting, developing FM software for 20 years. And principally, I have learned from other projects on how not to do it. In most projects, unfortunately, GIS is used just to show the dots on the map. So meaning everything else was done in one or many other applications. And that is wasting of the GIS licenses. I actually did also a few pilots with softwares that were on our shortlist for facility management softwares. And unfortunately, they did not meet our simple requirements. And the pitfall was mainly the manipulation of IFC. So lesson learned that you have to know what you want. And if you don't know, then you get some kind of interpretation of the winner of your tender. And it may have nothing to do what you actually need.
Thank you very much. I would like to, from all of you, a short answer to this question. It's according to Gartner and many other digital transformation gurus, let's say, is the problem for the data science, data analytics, digital transformation is that we have not been able to deploy most of the cases and the problem of scaling up the demonstrators. In few words, we have been working pretty much just to have some demonstrators, and we have failed scaling up these demonstrators. Can you say a few words? What is your opinion in the railway sector? Are in the right track, or we need to work more, maybe in Shift to Rail to learn how to scale it up in the proper way? Henk, do you want to start?
Yeah, that's a good question. I recognize the problem that you see. There is some good experience on small demonstrators, but the problem is indeed to scale, to make it much larger. And I think, especially in the presentation of Tommaso, the key of that is being mentioned there, and that is the data sharing. The data sharing is a problem. What I see is that you have technical suppliers of certain technology that generates data. Are they willing to share it? What you see is that infra managers have data because they have the infra as such. And you see people that have the capabilities of data analytics, so the data scientists. And it is really in sharing the data, and then especially on a large scale, because the more data you give to a data scientist, the more he can do with it. But yeah, I see there indeed an issue, and I don't have the right answer, because I can see the different points of view behind the issue of data sharing. But this is what we need to overcome. And I think Tommaso has addressed this very well.
Thank you, Henk. Tommaso, you want to answer?
Well, I obviously agree with what Henk has just said. I also would like to say that, as you mentioned, Diego, the potential that the framework of Shift to Rail 2 could actually provide in that sense, once we manage, of course, to overcome these barriers to data sharing. This crib of innovation in rail that the successor of Shift to Rail can represent is actually very important. But I would also indeed like to scale up when it comes to the demonstrators. But I would like to underline that we will need appropriate resources to really meet the ambitions of the sectors. And currently, I have to say, I'm sorry to say that, but it does not look completely perfect, this scenario, when it comes to this. What we see at the European level is actually a scenario which is not particularly joyful, I got to say.
Thank you, Tommaso. Urmas, what do you think about the scale up of the projects?
Principally, I agree with people before me. In addition, I would like to say that when you design something, you have to have in mind that you have to, at some point of time, you have to upscale it 10, 15 million times. And if you think on the start of the project about that, then you will be good off.
Thank you, Urmas. Jose, you are working with a lot of projects, a lot of demonstrators. Do you think that in Shift to Rail 2, we will be able to scale it up and have all these demonstrators in reality?
Yes.
Yeah, this is actually I think it's very crucial what you have mentioned, how you are going to cooperate with companies and establish this relation to scale it up.
Yes. For us, it's an is an aspect is an aspect very important. Okay, and we are working in this moment for to continue in that line of work. Okay, and okay is sorry because.
Yeah, it's a way. Yeah, it's I actually it's as you have explained, ADIF is really focused on scaling up with collaboration with companies, etc. Is now since we are close to the end of the session, I would really request you to give me one sentence, please. How you see the digital transformation and the future of the asset management and intelligent infrastructure. Just one sentence. Is you see with optimism, or you see, as Hank mentioned, with robotics. What is your main thoughts about the future of the intelligent infrastructure and asset management? We can start with you, Tommaso.
I see it with optimism, especially when it comes to rail freight.
Okay. That's a good point that you say many times we don't pay attention to the freight. Urmas, one thought?
I am also optimistic. I am looking forward to cooperation because that helps to find better solutions altogether.
Okay, thank you. Jose, one word about the future?
Sorry, because I have some problems with my connection. Okay, thank you, Diego. Yes, I think that this type of maintenance is the future in the railway organization. It's necessary in the future to apply it because it's necessary to have a real sustainability criterion in our organizations. But it's important to remark that this aspect is directly related to the safety. And in this way, we can conclude that they are a significant change because the maintenance is very important and have an important impact with the safety of the trains. And in the future, we're planning to need and to collaborate to apply the risk procedures that in this moment, for example, the safety common method is necessary to apply it in the future in this type of new chains. Okay, I am optimistic. It's a real situation in the future, but it's necessary to analyze the risk that's introduced in the organization. Okay, it's necessary.
Thank you, Jose. Hank?
Yeah, okay. First of all, I need to clarify something because I am officially representing here Shift Rail. So my answer, I probably will do with a different hat. I'm now a member of Shift Rail and I'm from Stockton Rail. So then my response would be that for the future, I heard here a word collaboration. Yes, the key is in collaboration, and it is actually to embrace the creativity of a lot of scientists, of SMEs and small companies. And that is what actually is needed in this rail sector. So if we want really to speed up, to be disruptive in an innovation, that is to collaborate and to use like I said, the creativity of everyone and not only the people around a limited table.
Thank you, Hank. Actually, thank you for your words, because as all speakers have said, we are in the right place in the right time. Shift Rail 1 is almost over. We are facing a new era with Shift Rail 2. The railways are no longer domestic stuff, not just for the domestic part of the countries. Is something that is connected, is something that the interoperability is crucial, is a European concern and no longer a national concern. And that's why we have the need for collaboration, need for standards, because definitely to have the asset register that Urmas was mentioning on the cross-collaboration projects that all the speakers have mentioned, we need some standards, like, for example, the rail topo model that UNIFE published a few years ago to discuss the infrastructure, and many other initiatives that are taking place. But not only that, we have to be aware that research and development are important. then we have to be together, and that's why UNIFE is there. We have to do research, and that's why we have infra managers, operators, and research now together, and the people are adopting the solutions of the research. That's why the digital transformation is a reality, because I think in railway we have the lack of having all stakeholders, researchers, as Hein said, SMEs, research organization, operators, infra managers, construction companies, all of them working together to have the best European railway of the future with the digital transformation, and finally is optimize the operation and maintenance for a better asset management. Thank you, all of the speakers. Has been fantastic to have you all here. It's for your brilliant speeches and your answers. It's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you very much to all attendees for this for your attendance, and see you soon. Please keep on enjoying this conference. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.